As soon as she's done with the new code, she's gone. I overheard my boss's son as he promised my job to Bestie. He came back crawling when his best friend deleted a file worth $2 million. I still remember the fluorescent glare in the conference room, reflecting off the polished table. I'd been at M&M Logistics for 11 loyal years. I was proud of my record, countless late nights, countless improvements, and a system that had saved the company millions. But that day, everything changed. The new CEO, Bradley West, sat at the head of the table, beaming with pride. Right beside him was his son, Brett, who kept smirking like he'd already won something. On the other side, my manager Jordan refused to make eye contact. Finally, Bradley cleared his throat and announced, "We're restructuring the department for a more modern approach." I felt my stomach drop. My role was reimagined. In other words, they fired me in front of everyone. Brett leaned forward, lips twisted into a smug grin, and introduced his college buddy Mason, who was apparently taking the reins of my position. My heart pounded with embarrassment and fury, but I forced my face to stay neutral. Jordan handed me a manila folder with termination paperwork, eyes full of forced pity. Before I left, I locked eyes with Brett. He looked at me as if I was already forgotten. But I wasn't shocked. I'd seen the writing on the wall weeks ago. I thought about the routing algorithm I'd finished coding last night. They assumed it was theirs, but everything was about to change. 2 weeks before that humiliating meeting, I received a Slack notification I shouldn't have. It popped up on my phone at midnight just as I was closing my laptop. At first, I thought it was a glitch. Then I read it. Brett's name was on the thread along with Jordan's. They were discussing me, calling my work old-fashioned and mocking my outdated mindset. I could almost hear them laughing as they typed. The conversation ended with, "Let's modernize the team with younger, faster energy." My cheeks burned with rage. I scrolled back up, scanning line after line of insults. One message actually read, "As soon as she wraps up that new code, we can bring in Mason. She's too stuck in the past." So they'd planned my replacement well before I even delivered my final project. I wanted to lash out right then, but I stopped myself. Instead, I calmly exported my code from my personal GitHub repo. I watermarked every single line with a hidden signature, something invisible to the naked eye, but undeniable in court. They had no idea I'd protected my work. My phone buzzed. A reminder from my calendar read, "Schedule coffee with recruiter." I smirked. Time to move. I built that routing algorithm piece by piece over 2 years. By day, I handled my normal load. By night, I fine-tuned the machine learning model. It optimized freight routes and cut operational errors by a huge margin. Something that saved M&M close to $4 million a year. Nobody else had that level of specialized knowledge because nobody else poured heart and soul into it like I did. I did it mostly on my personal laptop, at home, often sacrificing weekends. The company had no clue how deeply I understood every layer from the data cleaning scripts to the predictive logic. My code used advanced pattern recognition to spot inefficiencies and adjust routes in real time. For trucking companies, that meant less wasted fuel, fewer delays, happier clients. Before everything went south, I demonstrated an early prototype. Jordan had clapped me on the back, promising a bucking a bonus if I'd innovating. I believed him. But after reading that Slack thread, I realized I was just free labor for them. I decided right then, I was taking my masterpiece with me. As much as I wanted to cling to loyalty, I owed them nothing. Later that night, I met a recruiter for dinner. She leaned across the table and whispered, "Have you heard of Alarex Systems?" I heard about Mason's first day from my friend Sasha, one of the engineers on my old team. She sent me a text at 9 a.m. "He's wearing flip-flops and he just asked what a staging environment is." Mason had no clue about the intricacies of the system. He didn't even understand half of the documentation I'd left behind. Then it got worse. Mason apparently decided to clean up the codebase. He thought some directories were duplicates, so he deleted them. But those directories weren't duplicates. They contained core modules. Suddenly, entire segments of the routing logic vanished. By lunchtime, the freight tracking dashboard was showing error messages everywhere. Jordan tried to cover for Mason, saying it was just a temporary hiccup. But the panic in the office was real. Their brand new manager had basically set the system on fire. Sasha's next text buzzed my phone just as I was leaving a coffee shop. OMG, Mason wiped the logistics file. They're freaking out. Everyone's blaming him. I nearly laughed out loud on the sidewalk. My heart raced with a strange mix of satisfaction and sadness. I hated to see my old teammates suffer. I closed my eyes and wondered how bad would this meltdown get. The meltdown got very bad, very fast. By midweek, M&M's dashboard for live freight updates was crashing multiple times a day. One morning, the entire system went down during a critical vendor presentation. The East Coast client, one of M&M's largest, watched in disbelief as rates flickered from zero to triple the normal cost in real time. Sasha told me the conference room turned into chaos, frantic calls to IT, Mason sweating through his shirt, Brett pacing behind him whispering, "Fix this now." But there was no easy fix because the backup code Mason had deleted was essential to the system's reliability. As a result of this failure, M&M lost that East Coast client's confidence. A rumor spread that the client was canceling their new contract negotiations altogether. The financial impact could be huge, but the biggest surprise? Later that evening, my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, so I let it go to voicemail. Then I listened. "Hi, Jennifer Carter. We're from the East Coast Freight Alliance. We'd like to speak with you about an opportunity to consult on." I nearly dropped my phone. They weren't calling M&M. They were calling me. I hit call back. I wondered what M&M would do if they found out. I agreed to meet Devin Lin, CTO of Alarex Systems, at a ramen spot downtown. We took a table in the corner near a neon sign that buzzed softly. Steam rose from our bowls as we talked. Devin leaned in. "We've heard rumors about your algorithm. Word is, you built the backbone of M&M's freight routing. That true?" I nodded, careful with my words. "Mostly, but I own the core code." We sipped our mocktails and my heart pounded from more than just the chili spice. Alarex was a rising star in the logistics tech world, known for shaking up the old guard. If they had my system, well, that could change everything. I slid a small flash drive across the table. "It's a sample, enough to show what it can do." Devin's eyes lit up. "This is exactly what we need to expand our real-time routing capabilities. How fast can you scale it with a proper team?" My mind spun with excitement. I pictured a real development squad, budget, respect. I took a deep breath. "Give me a few top-tier engineers, a solid QA process, and a clear runway. I'll get you results in weeks." Devin grinned. "Sounds like we're in business. Let's talk details." I went home that night with my mind racing. My excitement was tempered by one nagging worry: M&M's employment contract. I remembered a clause about intellectual property. So I fished out the battered file I kept in my desk drawer and flipped through the pages. Clause 14b jumped out. "All intellectual property created on company time with company equipment belongs to M&M Logistics." The words burned my eyes. Anxiety flickered through my stomach. Did they have a claim to my code? I dug deeper, checking timestamps, reading the fine print, verifying emails. Every major breakthrough in my code was done at home using my personal laptop. My push log showed I was working after 7 p.m., sometimes at midnight. The IP address was always from my house. I took screenshots, compiled evidence, organized everything. If M&M tried to argue otherwise, I had the proof to fight back. I sent the entire folder to Alarex's legal team that same night. In my message, I wrote, "Please confirm we're clear." An hour later, Devin texted me directly. "You're bulletproof, Jen. We'll handle the rest." I wondered if M&M would discover my plan before I could finalize my exit. Word about my departure spread quickly inside M&M. Engineers I'd mentored started sending me private messages, wanting to know where I was headed next. They were drowning under Mason's leadership. 3 key engineers quit within a single month, citing management conflicts. 2 more reached out. "We want to follow you if you'll have us." I felt a twinge of guilt. They were my teammates, people I cared about. But I couldn't just hand them jobs without checking with Alarex, so I talked to Devin, who lit up. "We need experienced engineers. Send them my way." That very night, I drafted emails to each of them with subject lines like New Horizon. I invited them to chat, offering a hint at Alurex's vision. Their enthusiasm fueled me, but I also felt a growing sense of responsibility. If they joined me, that meant doubling down on leaving M&M behind for good. Still, I couldn't ignore their despair. Mason had no clue how to lead, and Brett seemed more interested in boosting his own image than supporting the team. So we became a small ghost team quietly planning our futures while M&M's ship was sinking. One of my ex-coworkers texted, "Brace yourself. Big changes in the top office." Late one night, M&M's founder, Carla Martinez, received a dismal report. 2 major vendor accounts were threatening to sue for contract delays. Financial damage, brand damage, everything was piling up. According to Sasha, Carla was livid. She called an emergency meeting with the board but excluded Brett and Jordan. Inside M&M's pristine glass tower, tension filled the corridors. Jordan scurried around trying to do damage control. Brett locked himself in his father's office. Mason sulked by the water cooler, apparently clueless about the scale of the problem. Meanwhile, Carla's confidential meeting dug into the root cause. The broken system, the lack of documentation, the exodus of talent. Questions started swirling. How did we let this happen? Who greenlit Mason's position? Where is Jen Carter now? Word of my name being mentioned in hushed tones made me grin. Maybe they finally realized how valuable I'd been. I felt a sharp jolt of both vindication and sadness. I had poured over a decade into that company. Now they were paying the price for nepotism and petty power plays. That night, I posted a cryptic LinkedIn status. Documentation is power. Within minutes, I saw Carla had viewed my profile. Out of nowhere, an old blog post I'd written years ago started gaining traction online. It was a piece about workplace equity in tech, highlighting how experienced professionals can drive innovation if given the right support. I'd almost forgotten I wrote it, but someone recognized my name and shared it on LinkedIn. Comments poured in. Jen Carter was the brain behind M&M's freight routing, and I had no idea she developed that system. It spread like wildfire. A logistics VP reposted it, adding, "We must value talent at every level." Within days, the post had hundreds of likes. Former co-workers chimed in with compliments. I never heard when I was inside M&M. Strangers thanked me for championing fair treatment in tech. I felt both overwhelmed and relieved. Finally, my voice was being heard in a bigger arena. Then came the big announcement. Alurex officially hired me as Director of Intelligence Systems along with the talented engineers who'd followed. When the news hit, my phone nearly exploded with messages. Many were congratulations, but a few were suspiciously from unknown numbers. Likely M&M employees fishing for info. A single text from my attorney read, "We have your back. Let's push forward." After Alurex's official hire announcement, the industry chatter exploded. People were talking about Jen Carter's next big move and how our new ML-based routing system could shake up freight logistics. Investors began questioning M&M, demanding answers about why they'd let me go. Brett tried to brush it off, calling it a nothing burger in an internal email. I laughed when Sasha forwarded me that email. A nothing burger? Really? Because from where I stood, Alurex was suddenly in talks with multiple M&M clients interested in a better solution. We set up demos for these prospective partners, showcasing advanced features my old code never had time to fully implement at M&M. During my first official Alurex demo, 3 of M&M's major clients came with open checkbooks. They saw real-time analytics, user-friendly dashboards, and integrated compliance checks. I watched their faces light up, and I knew we'd just opened the floodgates. Once M&M's customers realized how limited the old system was, there'd be no going back. After the meeting, Devin shook my hand. "We're about to change the game. Ready for the next step?" I nodded, adrenaline surging. M&M panicked. They released a statement claiming they were enhancing their technology under new leadership, promising clients that improvements were underway. But behind the scenes, Mason and his team were in shambles. Without proper documentation or training, every enhancement they tried to make created new bugs. Word leaked that entire sections of code had been orphaned because Mason trashed them. Engineers inside M&M were quitting faster than HR could replace them, citing burnout and poor guidance. An anonymous post on an industry forum read, "The system is basically broken. Leadership is clueless." Meanwhile, Alurex's phone didn't stop ringing. More companies requested demos. We juggled meeting after meeting, preparing to scale. A few times, I caught myself feeling a pang of guilt for how quickly M&M was sinking. But then I remembered the Slack thread that called me outdated, the smirk on Brett's face, and the gaping hole they left in my heart after firing me in public. I uploaded my original white paper, fully time-stamped and credited to a private repository accessible to a few IP lawyers. My message was clear. I owned this work and I could prove it. We decided to officially rebrand my code under Alerex. After a few brainstorming sessions, the name, Pulse Flow, stuck. It felt fresh, modern, and perfectly captured the real-time nature of our tool. The team designed a sleek teaser video showing live demos of Pulse Flow analyzing routes, minimizing idle time, and boosting efficiency by double digits. When we launched the teaser, the logistics industry practically leaned forward in their chairs. I got messages from old college friends, random acquaintances, even a few reporters asking how we built something so powerful so quickly. I just smiled. The secret was years of my work, plus a talented group of engineers who finally had the support they needed. M&M's response? A desperate attempt to downplay it. They posted some half-baked press release claiming that their own system would be just as competitive. But behind the scenes, my sources told me Brett was furious. He demanded a full legal investigation into Pulse Flow, apparently convinced I stole his property. Then one afternoon, I got a cease and desist letter delivered to my new office. It claimed Pulse Flow was a direct copy of M&M's code. I couldn't help but laugh when I read it. Devin walked in, waving the letter. "Their move," he said calmly. "Now we make ours." We had expected M&M's legal strike, so Alurex's attorneys were ready. They fired back a 26-page document detailing every line of proof, Git logs, timestamps, personal laptop usage, third-party IP auditors who confirmed I owned the code. It was bulletproof. We even attached statements from 3 ex-M&M engineers, all verifying I'd done this work off hours. Brett and Jordan had no idea the extent of my preparation. Their letter looked amateur by comparison. One day later, Sasha called to tell me Jordan was losing it. He's shouting in the hallway saying, "You set them up." I almost felt sorry for him, but the real clincher came when Sasha shared a string of emails showing that Mason had been the one who demanded I do after-hours coding to keep costs down. That email alone proved M&M insisted I use my own resources. Their entire argument that I built Pulse Flow on company time fell apart. I closed my laptop feeling lighter. Then my phone chimed with a new text from Sasha. "I have deposition receipts too. Ready to go on record." Carla Martinez, M&M's founder, was done playing games. She convened a board meeting that excluded Brett and Jordan again. The topic, crisis management. The board members read through the legal fiasco and the financial estimates of lost clients. One veteran board member even muttered, "Jen Carter was the best asset we ever discarded." Whispers of a leadership shakeup turned into official talk. Carla pressed for an internal review of all nepotism hires. Another board member hammered the table, demanding accountability for the breakdown in processes that let Mason lead a critical team without qualifications. Meanwhile, Brett tried to force his way into the meeting only to be told it was board only. I pictured his face reddening with frustration as security escorted him out of the hallway. Good riddance. Inside that room, the board began drafting an exit plan. Rumor said they wanted to remove Brett from his position and reassign Jordan to a less visible role. The plan was hush-hush, but inevitably, leaks happened. I got a tip from an ex-colleague. "They're about to clean house." I typed a quick message to Devin at Alurex. "M&M's leadership is on shaky ground. Time for phase 2? A week later, I got an email from M&M's HR with the subject line, "Reap potential opportunity." I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. The attached PDF was a buyout offer. They wanted me to come back as a high-level executive chief technology officer, no less. Their pitch: return to M&M, fix the system, and be rewarded for your expertise. I burst out laughing. They had publicly humiliated me, handed my role to a clueless friend of the CEO's son, and now they were begging me to save them. The nerve. Instead of replying directly, I forwarded it to my lawyer. Let her handle it. She fired back a formal response. Miss Carter is prepared to discuss licensing her independently developed code to M&M. However, any potential collaboration requires clear financial terms. We added a staggering figure, $6,200,000 upfront, plus ongoing royalties. It was steep, intentionally so. I imagine their reaction. They'd have to admit they needed me. They'd have to pay me for my work. No more exploitation, no more belittling. Part of me felt almost merciful, but I remembered how they cast me aside. My phone buzzed with an unknown number. We need to talk, a shaky voice said. It was Jordan. Word spread fast that the East Coast client, one of M&M's biggest, had fully moved to Alurex. They weren't just talking about a pilot program, they were signing a long-term agreement. Then a few more clients followed, convinced by PulseFlow's demo and my proven track record. New headlines popped up in trade magazines: mass defection to PulseFlow, Alurex gains ground, and M&M scrambles to recover. The meltdown was happening in real time, right out in the open. For me, it was strange to see the giant that once towered over me start collapsing under its own weight. At Alurex, we celebrated each new contract with cautious optimism. We knew the wave could grow even bigger. We also knew M&M might strike back. But for now, morale was high. My new team thrived on open communication and mutual respect, everything that had been missing in my old job. By the time we closed the fourth deal, the entire office erupted in cheers. Devin organized a spontaneous lunch party, and as I walked in, the whole room stood and clapped. I felt tears sting my eyes. For the first time, my work was celebrated without any agendas or backstabbing. My phone chimed with an email alert. Interview request, Tech Today podcast. It was time to speak publicly. A week later, I sat in a high-rise studio overlooking the city, prepping for a major logistics innovation podcast interview. My palms were sweaty. I knew thousands of professionals would hear my story. The host, a well-respected industry journalist, looked thrilled to have me.